Ever wondered where to find divine nourishment and cleansing in your everyday moments? Well, join me in exploring today's inspiring story in the Blessed is She Advent Devotional for Women, as a Catholic mom reveals unexpected places that teach us to recognize God's gifts in our lives. Hey there, Shannon here with Catholic Carolina Mom. If you're new to my page, thank you so much for being here and welcome. I'm a Catholic mom of 5, and I create videos to encourage Catholic moms to know and fully believe that regardless of what you're doing, whether it's decorating your home, raising your kids, or working out, that you can do it fully Catholic and all for God. Welcome back for day 3 of week 2. Today is Tuesday, so that means it's story day again, but this time we're hearing from a new author. Her name is Mary Catherine Craig. And if you look in the bios in the back of the book, you can read all about her. She is a professional life coach and an author. In today's story, I encourage you to remember the themes for the week, that they are nourishment and cleansing, and to try to see where this author brings these themes into the story and the lessons that you can learn through her experience. If you haven't already subscribed to my page, please do that now. And if you're liking these videos, I would be so grateful if you'd give them a thumbs up. Okay, so make sure you have a comfy, quiet place to sit and listen to this story and then be able to reflect and answer the questions after the story is done. And also, if you're wanting to follow along, make sure you have your devotional book with you and your journal handy to be able to write down your reflections. So if you would like to follow along, you can turn to pages 28 and 29 in the book, and you'll see it says Story by Mary Catherine Craig. I lay back on my surfboard with my arms outstretched across the water. I turned my head to look over at my friend as she did the same. We both laughed with delight and playfulness as we tried something we'd never done before. As the tide had shifted, there were no more waves for us to surf, and so we paused and simply relaxed into the beauty surrounding us. Lying on our backs on our longboards, we felt the gentle swells of water roll beneath us. I felt my body held by the board, held by the expansiveness of the ocean, held by God and the gift of His creation. We kept laughing with delight. The softly rolling water seemed to rock the loneliness I had been feeling. The cold water lapping at my sides washed away the sadness inside. The hot sun burned my face and legs and warmed my physical body as the ocean invited me to lay back, to trust, and to be held. My heart softened as I felt God hold me, loving me through His creation. Eventually we sat up again, but God didn't stop sending surprises. My friend spotted a dolphin and then a few more as they swam and danced along the surface of the water. They seemed to be showing off, diving and playing in the waters close to us. Smiles broke over our faces as we then watched one dolphin surf a wave, playfully gliding along the broken whitewash. I felt the Father pouring out His love, holding me and showing me in the open expansiveness of the ocean that I am safe and loved. My sadness could be washed away. I could surrender and trust. I could laugh. I could let go. I could connect with my friend, with God, and with myself present in these moments. Despite the heaviness and uncertainty inside, I could open up and receive God's goodness around me. We had intended to surf, but instead we played, opening up to the surprises of the moment around us and receiving gifts far more delightful than we could have imagined. When have you experienced God's surprises of delight? These moments are available when we allow ourselves to be playful, receptive, and open to receive. The Good Shepherd is delighted to lead us into restoration and nourishment. Allow Him to lead you to still and restful waters to refresh your soul. Okay, so reading this story, I was able to pick up on completely different themes than what we walked through last week, which is really how it's supposed to be. But it was just very clear to me how this fell under the umbrella of nourishment and cleansing. And I love how Mary Catherine was so aware, how she had this awareness in this story of finding God in the midst of his beautiful creation and in the joys of living in communion and life with others. And it gives us a message to remember that we can find God's nourishment and in turn, then his peace and rest through his gifts for us. Now, I know this might be confusing because you might be saying, now wait a minute, last week you told me we can't find true peace and rest in things or in people and that we can only find them in God. And now you're telling me that Mary Catherine was able to find peace and rest in nature and in the relationship with her friend. And so that's really confusing. So what's up with that? And I agree that it can be super confusing when we look at one of the main messages from last week, which was that our true peace and rest can only come from God and God alone. But I think that ultimately it's all in how you're looking at these things. If you're looking at the surfing and the feeling the water and the laughing with your friend and even the friendship itself as the things that are giving you your true peace and the things that you think about and the things that you crave, like, oh, I need some more of that water because it made me feel really good, or I want to hang out with her again because she gives me just these really peaceful feelings. Well, then you have sought peace and rest from these things, from these other things apart from God. But if you're looking at those things as God's blessings to you, and as part of God's bounty, and that the amazingly cool feeling of the water and the incredible feeling of laughter from your friendship, that they're actually God's good works that God is giving to you, and that these things are from God, that you recognize that they are God's gifts to you, and in turn that that's what you're seeking, and you know that the peace and the rest are truly from him, then you'll be able to find true peace in them, because then it's ultimately coming from God. And you are recognizing that it's not the things or the people that are bringing you the peace or the healing, as in Mary Catherine's case, but that it is God using these things, the beauty of his creation and the beauty of a relationship in your life, to bring about peace and healing. And if you recognize that and then are thankful to God for these gifts and are thankful for God's goodness in giving you the healing you need, that you are craving more of God and his divine will, then it's completely different. Because if your focus and your gratitude are directed at God, then regardless if the things or the friendships are taken away, your peace won't be taken away. Because it wasn't really about the things, it was about God all along. It was true peace and healing from him. So I hope that that makes sense. So in this story, we know that Mary Catherine has this immense sadness, but she doesn't really tell us why. We just learn that she's out trying this new activity of surfing with her friend out in God's beautiful creation, enjoying this friendship she has. And as we read that they kept laughing with delight. And she describes her loneliness being healed by the softly rolling waters, and that the inside sadness was washed away by the cold water lapping at her sides. Her face and her legs were burned by the sun, and her physical body was warmed from it as well. She states that the ocean invited her to lay back and trust and be held, and that her heart was softened as she felt God hold her as he loved her through his creation. So it's his love loving her through his creation. So we see her noticing the immense beauty of God's creation, of his handiwork in even the smallest things in nature, like the soft rolls of water, the coolness of water on her skin, and even the warmth of the sun on her skin. And these things we often overlook as being gifts from God. And God found a way to speak to her through his creation, and she actually took the time to listen to hear his voice, which came to her through nature and through her friendship. Notice right away, upon hearing God's whispers, she immediately turns to him with gratitude. She gives him credit for her healing. Quote, "My heart softened as I felt God hold me, loving me through his creation," end quote. And then after what she calls more surprises sent from God in the form of dolphins, she says, and I just really love this, in the third from the last paragraph, she says, "I felt the Father pouring out his love, holding me and showing me in the open expansiveness of the ocean that I am safe and loved. My sadness could be washed away. I could surrender and trust. I could laugh. I could let go. I could connect with my friend, with God, and with myself, present in these moments. Despite the heaviness and uncertainty inside, I could open up and receive God's goodness around me." It's this sense of recognizing our blessings, even amidst the storms and the trials and the tough times in our lives. God, we know, is a good God, and he is a loving God, and he loves us so very much that he desires for us to have peace and rest and healing, and that yes, sometimes he allows sufferings to come our way. Sometimes he allows trials. We will have stress. We will have disappointments and grief even. But that if we look up and we listen, we will not only see God's gifts all around us, as in the form of nature and a really good friendship, but we will hear God's still small voice speaking to us from his gifts. Mary Catherine saw the beauty of nature and she felt joy while engaging in laughter with her friend. And she saw them as what they were, God's gifts from his love for her. And she in turn gratefully accepted his gifts with thankfulness and appreciation. And she felt the Father hold her and show her in that moment how loved and safe she was. It was then that she let it all go, all of her sadness, all of her loneliness, all of her pain, and let God just wash it all away. She chose to be truly present in that moment, looking for the good and listening for the good, and then being aware and thankful for these gifts, allowing herself to be loved and healed and held. So even though she still had some sadness going on, she recognized that God was there with her through it all, and she was able to find delight in his love and generosity. She ends with saying that the Good Shepherd is delighted to lead us into restoration and nourishment, encouraging you to allow him to lead you to still and restful waters to refresh your soul. And she asks, when have you experienced God's surprises of delight? So we must ask ourselves, do I look around to see God's gifts and God's goodness even amidst sufferings and disappointments? Or am I so wrapped up in my sadness or my anger or my stress that I miss these delights? Do I make sure that I find time to rest and experience the quiet, whether that's out in nature like we heard about in this story today or somewhere else, so that I can hear God's voice when he speaks to me? Or do I fill all of my time, all of the time that could have quiet, with noise and distractions? You may think that's really cool that she had this experience, but I've never experienced anything like that before. Well, it may be surprising to you to think back on your life. Think back to the tough times you've gone through when you were maybe super absorbed in that trial or struggle, which is really normal to be like that. And when you didn't take the time to really look around and notice his gifts and listen for him and his goodness. But if you take some time to truly look back and remember what that time looked like, I really think that you could find God's goodness and that you would find his goodness in some way, even some tiny and seemingly insignificant way that helped heal you, or at least start the healing process. The world is so fast-paced and noisy that most of the time we miss these delights. I think a wonderful message we can take from today's story is to be more present and aware of God's presence in his creation around us and in the people he brings into our lives. To notice those things and then to give God thanks for these gifts and blessings and for his love and his goodness. So finishing up, the book asks two sets of questions. The first set asks, When was the last time you experienced deep, soul-satisfying delight? Mary Catherine found true rest as she connected with the Lord on the water. For you, has it been too long since you last felt this delight? What's preventing you from receiving more of God's pleasure and beauty in your day-to-day life? The second set asks, what nourishes your heart, mind, body, and soul? What practice can you intentionally include this week to enter into relationship with God and enjoy the rest that He alone can give? So find some time today, whether that's right now after the video or later on today, to sit down and to really spend some time in prayer with God, reflecting on these questions and having an honest conversation with Him. And then take the time to write down your responses from your reflection time, either in the book or in your journal. And going back to the themes of the week, and in the second set of questions, it asks, what nourishes your heart, mind, body, and soul? If we look up the definition of nourishment, it says it's something that nurtures and rears, promotes the growth of, furnishes or sustains, and that maintains and supports. So all the good things. All the things you need to get through these tough times and to bring healing and restoration to your soul. And we find this healing and restoration when we find God and connect with Him while experiencing the things that nourish our heart, mind, body, and soul. So an example of this is that when I spend some good quality time with my kids, and of course everyone's getting along, my soul feels nourished. But it's recognizing that it's not my kids that are giving me the peace. Yes, they give me love and joy and happiness, lots of happiness, but it's recognizing that the true peace I receive, the true nourishment that comes from spending these moments with my children, and the gift that they are themselves to me, they are from the Good Shepherd. That the true peace I receive from them is a gift from the Good Shepherd Himself. So what are some things that nourish your heart, mind, body, and soul? And what are ways that you can intentionally include them in your schedule this week to enter into relationship with God and enjoy the rest that He alone can give? Please drop a comment down below and let me know. Today's song of the day is I See Him by Joey and Rory. Now, if you've not heard of Joey and Rory, I think you'll really enjoy this today. Sadly, Joey passed away 7 years ago from cervical cancer, but thankfully my family came across their music probably 10 or so years ago and just fell in love with it, and we were blessed with the opportunity to be able to attend a Christmas concert out on their farm, and it was out in Tennessee. They had it in their barn, and we were able to attend this just a couple of years before she passed away, and it's now a really treasured memory of our family. Joey had such a beautiful voice, and some of their songs are still some of my favorites. So they're a little bit country, a little bluegrass, a little gospel, all thrown together. And I'll go ahead and leave the link down below for this song. And I'm also going to include links to some other favorites of mine from them. And there's just too many to put on there. So I really, really recommend that you check them out on their YouTube or wherever else you listen to music, and just, listen to their songs. They have some really, really beautiful lyrics. They sing some, they cover some gospel songs, and I just really enjoy them. So I hope that you do as well. So I hope that you enjoy this story today from Mary Catherine, and I cannot wait to hear more from her on Thursday of this week. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I cannot wait to spend time with you tomorrow. But until then, remember that whether you're decorating your home, raising your kids, or working out, that you can do it fully Catholic and all for God. Blessings to you, Catholic Mom. See you next time.